Dive into our thrilling series on dramatic encounters between humans and sharks. Today we bring you stories of pregnant women who face life-threatening shark attacks while swimming. Watch until the end to see how they use bravery and quick thinking to protect themselves and their unborn children from looming danger. These are tales of survival you won't want to miss. The Great Barrier Reef glowed in the warm Australian sun under the clear blue sky of early summer. Amelia Bennett and her husband, Michael Bennett, chose this idyllic location as their last peaceful getaway before the arrival of their child. Amelia was drawn to the blue waters despite Michael's warnings not to swim too far into the coral reef. Sharks were known to be present. Her heart was racing as she donned her snorkeling equipment with a mixture of excitement and defiance. She slipped into the clear, calm waters and felt her body enveloped by gentle waves. The ocean surface sparkled with excitement. Amelia moved slowly and deliberately to avoid splashing. The underwater world was a vibrant mosaic of shapes and colors. The coral formations were dotted with schools of colorful fish. At the same time, the odd sea turtle glided past, oblivious to Amelia's presence. Amelia was overwhelmed by the beauty of the coral reef and felt a strong connection with the vibrant life surrounding her. She continued to explore, and the water around her became darker. This was a hint at the mysteries that lay below. Although she was aware of her risks and the sharks known to frequent these waters, the lure of the unknown kept moving forward. Her hands occasionally brushed against the coral, sending small waves into the water. A large shadow emerged from the depths without warning. The sleek, formidable shark moved with a grace belied by its reputation as a fearsome predator. The tiger shark was curious and unfazed by the presence of humans in its territory. Amelia's pulse skipped a few beats when she saw the creature approaching, its unblinking eyes fixed on her. The shark approached slowly, almost cautiously, as if assessing Amelia. Amelia remembered having read about electromagnetic fields produced by the body, particularly during pregnancy. Sharks could mistake these invisible but powerful signals for signals coming from their prey. Amelia was overcome with fear as the shark circled her. The thrill of being so close to the reality of her vulnerability had replaced the thrill of being so close to such a magnificent creature, and she knew she needed to act quickly. She swam towards the surface with all her strength. Her movements were deliberate, and she tried not to provoke the predator with sudden splashes. The reef, which had once seemed inviting, was now a maze of coral formations between her and safety. The shark began to move more deliberately as she rose. It closed the gap between them in a split second. Amelia saw its vast jaws and rows of sharp teeth. It was a stark reminder that survival is a daily battle. Amelia felt an intense pain in her leg when the shark's jaws grazed it. It was a warning, not a fatal bite, but enough to start a frenzy. Amelia, in pain and panic, struggled to keep her composure. Her mind was racing with the thoughts of her unborn baby, her husband, and the life that they planned. She pushed her way through the fear and resolute determination she felt to survive. The surface appeared miles away. As the sun reached the shallower water, it pierced the surface, creating patterns that danced on the ocean bottom. Perhaps satisfied with the results of its investigation, the shark turned away and disappeared into deep blue waters. Amelia arrived at the beach with her body shaking and the bite marks on her leg as a painful reminder of her ordeal. She collapsed on the sand, and her only thoughts were of the precious life that she held, as well as the realization of just how quickly the beauty of nature could be transformed into terror. Amelia Bennett, lying on the white, soft sand, clutched at her leg as she felt the salt water sting her injury. She was suffocating, with a mixture of relief and fear as she looked out over the ocean. The Great Barrier Reef's peaceful surface was a deceptive facade, concealing the dangers that lurked beneath. Michael ran to her side with a worried expression. From the shore, he had watched helplessly, and his heart sank with every ripple that suggested his wife was struggling. He was overwhelmed with gratitude and frustration when he saw his wife safe, even though she was injured. The marks on her leg were visible, but not as severe as he had feared. His voice, filled with relief and urgency, conveyed the necessity of immediately taking her to the hospital. Amelia was anxious as she replayed the incident in her head. Amelia's vulnerability was brought home by the shark's indifferent stare, sudden fear, and primal survival instinct. The doctors at the hospital confirmed that it was a superficial bite, which saved her life in what could have otherwise been a deadly encounter. Amelia lay on her hospital bed with her hand resting on her stomach. The gentle kicks of her unborn baby were a comforting reminder to both that they had survived. Amelia and Michael spent the next few days reflecting. The trauma of the attack on the shark had overshadowed the excitement of Amelia and Michael's baby moon. Amelia was struggling with guilt for swimming in shark-infested water. She was haunted by the warnings she had ignored. Each memory was a jab to her conscience. Michael's support was not enough to mask his distress. Michael wished never to see Amelia alone and vulnerable in the water again. Amelia and Michael revisited the Great Barrier Reef, but they brought their 3-year-old son Noah this time. The couple visited the same beaches with a newfound respect and understanding for the sea's inhabitants. Amelia watched Noah make sandcastles by the shore while his laughter blended with the sound of the waves. The reef was still as stunning and intimidating as it had always been. Amelia felt closure as the sun set, casting a golden radiance over the water. The ocean gave her a second opportunity with its mysteries and grandeur. She learned to appreciate its beauty at a distance and hoped Noah would pass on this lesson. The Bennett family gathered in the quiet of the evening to show the power of motherhood and nature's unyielding force. Eliza Martinez, a marine biologist and a native of Cocos Island in Costa Rica, set out on a research expedition during the sun-soaked months of the dry seasons. She was pregnant and full of excitement, but also a sense of responsibility. Her goal was to study the behavior and ecology of reef sharks. This combined her professional knowledge with a passion for marine life. Armed with research gear, Eliza spent her days aboard the Ocean Guardian, a research vessel with her small team of scientists. The calm, azure water hid the complexity of life under the waves. Eliza was confident despite her condition. Her years of experience and extensive preparation reassured her. Eliza was descending into the crystal-clear water when the sun's rays penetrated the ocean's surface, creating a shimmering quilt on the coral beneath. The coral reef was a hive of activity. Fish darted into and out of coral hiding places while sea turtles cruised along the currents in unhurried grace. The reef sharks swam among these tranquil scenes, their sleek shapes cutting through the water effortlessly. Eliza easily navigated the coral reef, buoyed by her sense of purpose. She was collecting data for her research, watching the interactions between sharks and their feeding behavior. Reef sharks are known to be relatively docile around humans. They seemed to accept her, occasionally gliding by her curiously. Unbeknownst of Eliza's presence, however, was a single bull shark. This species is known for its unpredictable and territorial nature. The bull shark, larger and more potent than reef sharks, moves purposefully and patrols deeper waters. Its dark eyes surveyed the coral reef, marking the territory with silent warnings not seen by the intruders above. Her work so absorbed Eliza that she failed to notice subtle changes in the underwater dynamics. Sensing the bull shark's presence, the reef sharks gradually dispersed and gave wide berths to the dominant predator. Eliza was absorbed in her underwater tablet and recording observations, so she did not notice the change. The bull shark began to close in on its swimmer, feeling its territory invaded. Its approach could have been more timely but calculated. A silent hunter, it was assessing the threat of the lone swimmer. Eliza looked up when she noticed a sudden drop in water temperature. She was frightened as she saw the silhouette approaching, much larger than any shark she had seen. Eliza was only given a few seconds to react as the bull shark approached, its intentions becoming clear. She tried to appear less dangerous by remaining calm and avoiding sudden movements that might trigger the shark's predatory instincts. The bull shark, however, was unfazed. It accelerated with a powerful tail flick, and its body was coiled up in muscular energy. With its mouth wide open and rows of razor-sharp teeth, the shark closed the gap quickly. Eliza was thrown through the water by the force of the attack as the teeth of the shark sank deep into her leg. Thoughts of her unborn baby consumed her, and the research mission became a distant memory in the face of survival. Eliza, fueled by maternal instinct and adrenaline, kicked her leg with desperation. Surprised by Eliza's resistance, the bull shark loosened his grip momentarily, giving Eliza just enough time to escape. As she struggled to the surface, clouds of blood and sand covered her vision. Each stroke was a mixture of pain and determination. The bull shark's interest in the fight had waned, and it was no longer interested. It disappeared into the depths. Eliza's co-workers, alerted to the commotion by the shark, rushed to help her on the boat. Her leg was bleeding, but her spirit was unbroken as she held on to the hope that both she and her baby would survive. Eliza Martinez and her colleagues on the Ocean Guardian sprung into action. Their training as marine scientists temporarily gave way to emergency medical responses. One colleague grabbed a first aid kit, while another called the Cocos Island Coast Guard Station for an emergency medical evacuation. Eliza was in a state of panic and pain as they bandaged her leg to stop the blood flow. She worried not only for herself, but also for her unborn baby. Despite the pain and shock, Eliza's scientific brain couldn't resist analyzing the situation. Eliza's current condition and the ocean's unpredictability were brought home by the bull shark attack. She regretted that she hadn't paid more attention to environmental cues, which could have alerted her to the dangers lurking around. The boat was racing towards the island when the sun started to descend, casting a golden glow over the water. This calm contrasted sharply against the urgency of the return. Eliza lay on the deck trying to remain calm. She focused on the rhythmic sound that the boat made as it cut through the waves. This sound is usually soothing, but was now the backdrop of her racing thoughts. Eliza was immediately transferred to a small hospital upon arrival. Doctors who were familiar with diving injuries acted quickly. After several hours of intense examination, the doctors assured Eliza that while her injury was severe, she was not in danger and that her pregnancy was safe. Eliza felt a deep sense of relief when she heard this news. For the first time after the attack, Eliza took a moment to be grateful for her safety and that of her unborn child. Eliza spent the days of her recovery reliving the events leading up to the attack. Eliza was a perceived threat or intruder by the bull shark, which her presence in its territory may have aggravated during the spawning season. This reflection inspired Eliza to use her experience as a teaching tool for others. Eliza returned to the field a few months after her recovery and the birth of a healthy daughter, Mara. Eliza's ordeal had only strengthened her resolve to continue her research. Her approach had changed dramatically. She invested in tracking equipment and stricter safety procedures to monitor shark movement and environmental changes. Eliza returned to Cocos Island with a determined but cautious determination to respect and understand the marine animals she studied. Her encounter with the bull shark did not dim her passion, but it had transformed it into one of respect and measured pursuit. Eliza's research has contributed to conservation and the study of shark behavior for many years. Her story was widely shared within the scientific community and even beyond. It served as a powerful warning to respect and be cautious when entering the habitats of these formidable creatures. Eliza watched her daughter Mara playing on the sandy beaches of Cocos Island. It was a place they visited often. She felt a strong connection with the ocean, its dangers and wonders as tangible as theirs. She believed that by showing respect, caution, and understanding to the ocean's magnificent predators, humans can coexist in harmony, protecting their futures and those of the creatures beneath the waves. False Bay, South Africa, is known for its rich marine life, dramatic coastline, and vibrant marine life. The annual whale birthing began as False Bay was a hive of activity. The bay's water, tinged with red from the plankton blooms in the bay, provided a rare sight that attracted nature lovers worldwide. Claire Hamilton, who was 6 months pregnant and a marine scientist, was among them. Despite her advanced age, her passion for marine life drove her to join the tour. This decision was met with concern from her peers. The tour boat floated gently above the water as the morning dawned. The air was filled with the salty tang from the ocean and the distant calls of seabirds. The gentle giants of the sea, the whales, moved below with grace and ease that belied their immense size. Their bodies cast large shadows on the ocean floor. Claire, equipped with a fin and snorkel, stood on the deck scanning the horizon. The guide cautioned the group to remain on the boat due to the presence of sharks, who were drawn to the area by the seals during the birthing season. The seals, combined with the natural instincts triggered by the season, attracted great white sharks to this region, making the waters particularly dangerous. Claire could not resist the lure of being so close to whales in their habitat. She slipped into the water as the group watched from the boat. Her heart was pounding and she felt a bit of defiance. As she floated in the cool water, she looked down to the ocean's depths where whales sang ancient songs. The underwater world unfolded in a dance of shifting lights and shadows. Claire moved with deliberate care, trying to create minimal disruption. In the dim waters, she could make out the imposing silhouettes of the whales, their massive forms both majestic and intimidating. She was so captivated by their presence that she failed to notice the subtle changes in her surroundings. The sudden, eerie silence and the vanishing of the smaller fish, which had accompanied her like friends, went unnoticed. Her presence altered the delicate ecosystem without her knowing. The red waters of the bay masked another resident of the bay, a great white shark. Its senses were finely tuned, and it could detect the slightest change in its surroundings. As a lone hunter, the shark patrolled along the edge of the whale group. The possibility of an easy meal triggered its instincts. The great white shark is one of the ocean's most powerful predators. The precision of its movements had been honed over millions of years by evolution. It detected Claire's movements and the electrical impulses her body sent out, an unwitting message to a creature driven by instinct. Claire was mesmerized as she floated by the whale calf a few meters away. She failed to notice a dark shape approaching below. Hunger and opportunity drove the shark to see her as a possible prey. Its usual caution was overridden by its immediate desire for food. The shark rushed up in a rush. Claire felt an immense force collide with her body as a vast shadow enveloped her. She turned in time to see a great white snarling at her, its teeth stark white against a deep red water. The attack was brutal and swift. Claire felt a sharp pain when the teeth of the shark sank deep into her leg and dragged her down. Her body shook as the shock of the attack rushed through it. Her mind was racing from panic. She struggled as her instincts of a biologist were replaced by the primal desire to survive. She struggled to escape the shark's grip. Blood dotted the water. She was horrified by the clarity of her situation as she kicked against the enormous force. She ignored the warnings and was now fighting for her life. Her actions in the water contrasted with the peaceful observation she had imagined. Claire's struggle against the great white shark became more intense as the waters of False Bay turned a crimson swirl. She had learned about shark behavior from her training as a marine scientist, which she used to try and save her life. She remembered that sometimes hitting the shark's sensitive gills or nose could deter it. She swung at the shark with all her strength, searching for any weak spot that might force it to let her go. Claire's resistance surprised the shark, who momentarily let go of her. This gave Claire just enough time to escape. She pushed herself up towards the light while her leg was throbbing with pain from the bite. Fear and adrenaline drove the woman onward, even though it seemed like a long way to go. She heard a commotion and shouts as she gasped for air. The group was in a frantic state of mind after witnessing the attack. The guide steered the boat quickly towards her. Claire waved both arms to signal for help. Her mind was focused solely on her survival. She was determined to remain conscious and alive for her unborn baby. As the shark was circling back to attack again, the boat arrived. Strong hands pulled her onto the ship, away from imminent danger. She collapsed on the deck as the relief of escaping mingled with the pain from her injuries. As the boat raced back to the shore, the guide applied a tourniquet on her leg to slow the bleeding. Now was not the time to regret, but only to take action to treat her injuries. The reality of the situation set in once again. Claire survived the attack, but its psychological effects lingered. The physical scars took a few weeks to heal, but they were not the only ones. She struggled with guilt over her decision to go into the water against her doctor's advice, and terror from the attack haunted all of her dreams. Claire returned to academia a few months later and shifted her focus to training future marine biologists. She stressed the importance of ethical research and respecting wildlife. Her personal experiences enriched her lectures, which combined scientific knowledge and the lessons she learned from her encounter with a great white. Claire's experience in False Bay changed her life in a way she never imagined. She became more determined to protect the marine environment and all its inhabitants. She was reminded of the unpredictability and power of nature by her close encounter with a shark. Her experience was a crucial part of her work. It taught her a hard lesson about balancing curiosity and respect for the natural world. Claire's efforts to promote marine conservation were influenced by her encounter with one of the ocean's greatest predators. The remote island, nestled in the calm waters of the Maldives, seemed like a paradise. It was the perfect place for Emily and Tom to spend their baby moon. With its turquoise water and pristine beaches, the island was known for its wildlife. In particular, whale sharks were frequent visitors. Despite the ocean's known dangers, Emily, an expectant mother and wildlife enthusiast, couldn't pass up the chance to swim with the gentle giants. The couple walked to the dive site as the sun casts a golden glow over the water. It transformed the ocean into an expanse of shimmering water that extended to the horizon. Emily donned her snorkeling equipment, filled with excitement and nervous anticipation. She looked towards the water and imagined the magnificent creatures waiting for her beneath the surface. Emily adjusted her mask, and Tom gave her a nod of support. She plunged into the water. The coolness enveloped her. She was greeted by a colorful tapestry of corals and schools of colorful schooling fish. She floated and adjusted to weightlessness as the whale shark's shadow appeared in the water. Its massive form moved with effortless grace, belying its size. Emily was mesmerized by the sight of the whale shark. Its spotted skin passed close enough for her to see the tiny remoras that clung to its sides. She followed at a safe distance, her heart swelling with awe as she observed the peaceful interaction. The peaceful scene would only remain unbroken for a short time. Emily was unaware that her presence in the water attracted another, more dangerous ocean inhabitant. The rogue tiger shark, known for being unpredictable and aggressive, was attracted to the area by Emily's subtle chemical signals. In sharp contrast to the whale shark's calm demeanor, the tiger shark glided through the water with determined grace. Its streamlined body sliced through the currents as it neared Emily. The shark's dark, intent eyes surveyed the scene, honing in on the lone human among the ocean's giants. Emily was captivated by whale sharks and unaware of the danger lurking in the depths. She felt uneasy only when she noticed the water surrounding her suddenly becoming colder. This was a primal warning of danger. She turned slowly and saw the tiger shark, its striped body a warning in the clear waters. As the tiger shark circled, its movements were deliberate, embodying a predator focused intently on its prey. Emily understood the moment's urgency and sifted quickly through her memory, recalling all the advice she'd read about shark encounters. She held onto those crucial guidelines, knowing she needed to act swiftly. She slowly backed away, keeping her eyes fixed on the shark. Her body was tense with fear. Each move was calculated. The tiger shark seemed to consider the woman momentarily, moving its tail slowly while keeping its distance. The tiger shark was initially curious but moved forward quickly, changing its body language from curious to aggressive. Emily's return to the boat, fueled by adrenaline, was a blur. As she swam back to the ship, it seemed like the shore was far away. Her pregnancy had suddenly become a heavy burden. The water behind her churned when the tiger shark began its pursuit. It was a predator's playground that became a terrifying survival arena. Emily's frantic strokes cut the water as the Maldivian coastline loomed. It was still too far away to be comfortable. She focused on one thing: surviving. The thrashing behind her indicated that the shark was relentlessly pursuing her. Its swift movements were a blur at the corner of her eyes. Emily remembered a survival tip: make herself appear as intimidating and large as possible. She turned to face her pursuer, spreading her arms wide in an attempt to make herself seem more imposing. She vigorously slapped the water's surface, hoping the noise and movement would startle the tiger shark. For a moment, the shark seemed to hesitate, its dark eyes assessing her in the vast ocean. Emily needed those precious seconds. She resumed her swim with renewed urgency. Each stroke was a mix of fear and determination. She was drowned out by the sounds of water spouting around her. Tom, watching the horror unfold from the boat's deck, began to prepare to pull her on board as she approached the ship. His shouts alerted the crew, who rushed to help. The shark lunged at Emily's legs as she reached out her hand. Tom and his crew pulled Emily from the water with a mighty heave. Her legs were kicking just below the jaws of the shark. She collapsed on the deck after the shark's attack, her body shaking with fear and exhaustion. The crew pushed the boat quickly away from the area. The motor began to roar as they returned to safety on the main island. Emily took a deep breath. letting her breaths come in short, ragged gasps once they had a safe distance. The sun's warmth starkly contrasted with her fear of the water. Tom sat next to her. His presence was calming. The two of them didn't talk. Words weren't needed after such an encounter with nature. Each person was lost in their thoughts as they returned to the dock. Emily looked at the horizon. The peaceful colors of the sunset starkly contrasted with the deadly dance below the waves. She thought back on her decision to dive into the water. It was a choice that nearly cost her life. She reflected on her decision to enter the water, which nearly cost her everything. Emily's close-up encounter with the tiger shark was widely shared among island residents and tourists in the following days, as a reminder to be respectful and cautious when dealing with wildlife. Her story was told to highlight the natural environment's unpredictable nature and the importance of listening to local advice when interacting with wildlife. Emily took this lesson to heart. Emily's love of marine life did not change. Still, her respect for ocean predators grew, and she developed a newfound sense of caution. Her passion for conserving marine life remained unchanged, but she developed a newfound respect for the ocean's predators. Emily recovered from her shock and relived her escape. She knew this experience would forever alter her relationship with the ocean. A more profound respect shaped it because she understood that underneath its beautiful surface, the sea is a dynamic, sometimes dangerous world. It's an actual predator's play area. The Aurora Borealis, a research vessel in the icy waters of Svalbard, Norway, was a temporary residence for scientists studying polar bears' behavior and ecology. Laura Jensen was a marine scientist who was 7 months pregnant. Laura Jensen's dedication to her research was unwavering despite the risks of her condition and extreme conditions. Laura saw this as an opportunity to collect data to help conservation efforts. The Arctic landscape is both breathtaking and intimidating. The Aurora Borealis, often shown in the sky, and icebergs shaped like alabaster floated on the water's surface. Laura spent many hours on deck in her insulated gear, documenting the movements and habits of the polar bears. Her research was crucial, as it aimed to understand how climate changes altered bears' behaviors. The Arctic is not without danger. Under the calm surface of the water, Greenland sharks lurked. These ancient and elusive creatures are known for their persistent but slow hunting techniques. The sharks were rarely visible but always there as part of the complex ecosystem that Laura was studying. When the peace suddenly broke, Laura collected samples at an ice flow's edge. The still waters were disturbed by a dark form moving beneath the surface. The Greenland shark was barely visible in the darkness of the deep ocean. Laura knew these sharks were usually scavengers, but that the lack of food in the Arctic could cause them to become more aggressive. She continued to work and more shadows appeared. As the sharks were attracted by her equipment's electromagnetic and vibration signals, they began to circle. Laura's heart raced when she realized the danger. Sharks are usually solitary animals, but this unusual behavior was likely due to hunger and an instinctive desire to find food. Realizing that she was in danger, Laura decided to retreat. She moved slowly to avoid provoking a shark chase. Each step she took back to the safety of her research vessel was calculated and tense. She was torn by her desire to learn and her maternal instinct to protect the unborn child. Laura glanced behind her as she approached the boat and saw the Greenland shark's fins slicing through the ice-cold water. Their movements were deliberate and unhurried. It dawned on her that she was vulnerable in this frozen wilderness. The Arctic was harsh and unforgiving, where life was at the mercy of nature. Her colleagues helped Laura aboard the ship. She reflected on her decision as she looked at the icy water. Fear of coming face to face with one of the Arctic's most formidable predators had tempered the thrill of being able to contribute to vital research. It was a harrowing experience that reminded her of the delicate balance needed to enter such a rugged yet pristine landscape. Sitting on the deck of Aurora Borealis, Laura Jensen watched the darkness where the Greenland sharks had vanished into the depths. Although the immediate threat had passed, her encounter with the sharks left a lasting impression on her. Laura's colleagues rushed around her to secure equipment and discuss the strange behavior of the sharks, but she was left alone with her thoughts. Although the Arctic's beauty is undeniable and its dangers are not, today's events have revealed their latent dangers. Laura was committed to her career. but her vulnerability and pregnancy began to weigh on her. She realized the delicate balance between following her passion and maintaining personal safety. It could be thrown off at the slightest provocation. Laura spent some time observing the icy landscape as the ship moved away from where the sharks were sighted. The vastness of the Arctic was both intimidating and awe-inspiring. She knew that the data collected on the expedition would be crucial to understanding Arctic wildlife. However, she still questioned if the risks to herself and her unborn baby were justified. Laura was determined not to let her experience dictate the rest of the trip, so she concentrated on collecting her observations and notes. From the relative safety and comfort of the ship, she continued her research using binoculars, cameras, and other tools. She was able to contribute in a meaningful way while staying safe from the dangers of the icy water. Laura was filled with relief and satisfaction as the expedition ended. Laura had overcome one of her biggest challenges with courage. Her encounter with the Greenland sharks was a turning point in her life. It served as a reminder to respect and be cautious when dealing with wild animals. Laura returned home and shared her experience with the scientific community. She stressed the unpredictable nature of Arctic research and the need for improved safety measures. Laura's story was a hit with many. It highlighted the inherent dangers of working in extreme environments and the need to balance human curiosity and environmental awareness. The tranquil azure waters of the Bahamas were irresistible under the bright afternoon sun, sparkling brilliantly in the Caribbean light. 6 months pregnant, Sarah Mitchell and her husband chose this idyllic destination for their baby moon, seeking a serene escape to unwind and savor a brief reprieve from their daily routines. The small island they were anchored at was hidden, a paradise with white sandy beaches, lush greenery, and a peaceful beauty. Sarah was eager to take a dip in the warm, clear water. Sarah stepped into the shallow waters in her swimsuit and with sunscreen on. The gentle waves that lapped against her skin soothed her swollen feet as she moved further away from the shore. The seabed began to darken as the water grew deeper around her. Sarah floated backward, enjoying the gentle dance of the sun's rays in the crystal-clear water. She was utterly at peace. Despite their seemingly tranquil appearance, the waters surrounding the island were not as untouched as they appeared. Although Sarah was unaware of this, locals knew that the area was a habitat for reef sharks. Generally, they are naturally cautious, but these sharks could become aggressive if provoked or during feeding. Sarah was swimming when a reef shark, attracted by the disturbance of the water, quietly started to close in from the deeper areas of the bay. Its muscular, sleek body sliced through the water efficiently, driven by its instinct to investigate potential threats or prey within its territory. From the moment Sarah noticed a shadow beneath her, she felt tense. While not fully alarming, it was enough to heighten her nerves. She flipped her body to float upright and scanned the surrounding water. To calm herself, she waded further, reassuring herself that it was just her imagination. The shark suddenly arose from the depths. It closed in on the distance with terrifying speed. The dorsal blade sliced through the water as if it were a knife. Sarah's heart pounded when she saw the shark form. Its eyes were cold and unyielding. She tried to escape in a panic, but it was already too late. The shark snapped its jaws around her leg as it charged. The pain was searing and immediate, a burning sensation that ripped her calm. Sarah struggled desperately in the chaos of splashing waters and thrashing arms. Her mind was filled with regret for her decision to swim into these unknown waters. She was battling to escape the predator when her thoughts turned to her unborn baby, intensifying her struggle for survival. She came here for peace and relaxation, not to confront the primal fear awakened in her by the shadow lurking at the bottom. Sarah's instinct for survival took over amid the chaos. She knew that she needed to act fast to protect her unborn baby and prevent further injury. She waded in the water with her hands, searching for anything to help defend herself. She found the snorkel she dropped and used all her strength to jab at the shark's sensitive eyes and gills. Taken aback by the shark's sudden retreat, it briefly loosened its grip. Sarah seized the opportunity, pulling her leg free despite the searing pain shooting up her limb. The water turned scarlet and blood splattered the surface. Ignoring the pain, she began swimming desperately back to shore, each stroke fueled by adrenaline and an unyielding will to survive. The shark circled back behind her as if to reassess the prey who had suddenly fought back. Sarah felt the pressure of the shark's gaze and the threat of another attack. The sight of the sandy shore, which was getting closer with every painful kick, pushed her forward. Her husband, watching her in horror on the deck of the cruise ship, dove into the water and helped her. Her weak leg throbbed as she struggled to get out of the water. Sarah gasped in shock and collapsed on the sand. Sarah lay on the beach safely, watching the swirling sky of blue and white above her. As the terror of the attack subsided, it was replaced by a feeling of relief that she had survived. She felt the steady pulse within her stomach and was reassured. She felt the regret of her decision, which was to swim in shark-infested water. The gravity of the situation became apparent as the sun set and cast long shadows on the beach. Sarah and her husband watched the waves rolling in as a gentle reminder of the ocean's constant presence. The scene's beauty was striking against the background of the day's events. It served as a reminder of nature's dual nature, tranquility and danger. Sarah's story was shared with the cruise crew and guests the following days. The attack highlighted the importance of listening to local warnings regarding wildlife and the environment. Sarah's encounter with the shark marked a turning point in her life, shaping the rest of the baby moon she spent, and her understanding of the fragility of life. She often thought about the water and the shadows beneath the waves. But these thoughts no longer contained only fear. The reflections were filled with a deep, abiding respect for nature, born from confrontation and consequences. The ocean's fearful echoes gradually faded as she recovered physically and mentally.